Welcome to Reading Under the Covers, a romance novel podcast. I'm Francesca from Under the Covers book blog, and I'm excited to have a guest with me today to talk about something that maybe you guys don't hear recommended here as much. I'm excited to welcome back to the podcast Laura from the What to Read Next podcast. Hi, Laura.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here and talking about a niche trope that not even myself, I'm surprised I actually like. So I'm so excited.
So we wanted to bring you guys technically some mafia recommendations, but we wanted to be very, very specific with those recommendations. So we settled on kidnapping or captive captor mafia romances. So let's go really dark with this one.
They're really dark, but they're somewhat less dark.
Okay.
So it's light to super dark. So
Okay.
not a lot of trigger warnings for some of them. They're a good entry to dark romance, but not fully dark romance, if you know what I
Okay.
mean.
Those are
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. So a bit about me as a reader is that I personally don't like a lot of sexual assault as a trigger warning. I don't like any issues. I have issues with a lot of red flags and alpha heroes, but for some reason, mafia captor romance works, and I don't know why, but it does work. It's suspend disbelief. It's interesting because I grew up in the drug cartel. This is like a personal story. So my dad was involved in the business, and I was aware of like things, and it is what it is. But I left that life a long time ago. I went to
Mhm.
college. I'm estranged from my dad for the most part. He's no longer part of it. He has retired. So it's just interesting because it brings me back. Some of the themes bring me back to my childhood, but they're different. In my personal life, I do not engage with this behavior. I am actually in the white collar business of investigating things. So I don't engage with any of that behavior. But in my reading life, I do enjoy a little bit of mafia.
Yeah, I actually find that that's so interesting because I also am a little bit like that in the sense that there are many things that I'm okay with reading, and they would totally not be something that I would condone normal life. So I have to ask you, like, so how did you stumble on this very niche trope that it seems like it's not something you would have said, let me go out and seek it. So it must have been completely by accident, right?
It was by accident. I think it was Twisted Emotions. I was looking back at my Goodreads when I started making this list because originally we're going to talk about Mafia, and I was like, let's see when I started. And I remember we were talking to authors like Nisha Sharma and I think Joanna Shup, and they came on the show and they talk about Mafia romance. They were well known in 2020 about talking about their favorite Mafia romances and dark romances, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I stumbled upon Twisted Emotions by Cora Riley. I had bought it at some point. I was in a weird reading slump, as one does, as a mood reader.
Mhm.
And I picked up Twisted Emotions and I was like, oh, this is interesting because it has the alpha hero. It has a sense of like the morally gray. We're not sure if he's good guy, he's bad guy, but he falls first for the most part, or he's so into the heroine companion in the book that I'm like, oh, like this is great. It's just like this place of full of red flags, but I am green flags for her kind of a deal. And so I started reading Twisted Emotions. It was a standalone and it was a arranged marriage. He killed somebody, and I was like, oh, this is great. He killed somebody, like whatever. The husband did it. The husband really did it here. So you get a little bit of thriller vibes,
Uh-huh.
true crime vibes, and some romance. So
Yeah.
it was like the best of both worlds. And then I started reading the Kimura Chronicles because it was like even though Twisted Emotions, it's not Twisted Emotions. It's one of those books. It was a standalone, but the cousin shows up in another book. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, let me just read this. And the book, it has this idea of Italian. There's different types of mafia. There's Italian, there's Russian, there's Irish, there's cartel, there's Mexican cartel. So there's
Mhm.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
These are mainly focused on like Italian mafia. So there's all this idea of virginity and purity, and the female has to be docile and the man has to be, very strong. And then it turns out that females in these romances tend to be more strong headed and very sure of themselves, very like, you're not going to bullshit me and you're not piss me off. And so I really like this juxtaposition of someone who's supposed to be pure and virgin and docile and then be like, no, That's not happening. And so it's interesting because these are kidnapping romances. So there's even a niche within there
Yeah.
where the female has been kidnapped and they're trying to get out and they're like, what am I supposed to do? And then they have Stockholm syndrome and they fall in love with the captor.
Yeah. Yep. I
Just
love it.
great.
I haven't gone that much down like a deep rabbit hole with those, but I definitely have a couple that I have really enjoyed.
Yes, it's a pretty big niche within the kidnapping. Dark romance explorers tend to explore a lot of taboo topics
Mhm.
or ideas that you didn't think would be possible or
Yeah.
you wouldn't have in your healthy life, but you're exploring that dark side of
Yeah.
who you are. So I would say these books are not super, super dark. There's some dark themes. Yes, people get killed,
Sure.
but then again, I read cozy mysteries and someone dies. It's a cozy mystery version of a dark romance. That's what I would like to call it.
I love that. Okay, so let's get into some of your favorite authors and then we'll get to your book recommendations. What are your top 5 authors in this genre?
So I go by this topic. So
Okay.
Cora Riley worked for me. I binge read her Camorra Chronicles, which is an Italian mafia set in Vegas. And her books are, she has plenty of mafia, plenty to go for. She has different families and different places. There's Chicago, there's New York, there's Vegas. So there's a little bit of everything. And the world connects to each other, but they'll fight each other. There's like war. So that works. I would say JT Geisinger, like these are the top mafia you're thinking about. Like JT
Right.
Geisinger has like a more lighter tone mafia. It's a little bit more fun. There's like Russians, Irish. I think there might be some Italian, but there's pretty lighter tone. Mila Finale, who is also Joanna Shup, she has come out. It was a secret when I first read her, but she has come out as Joanna Shup. Very Italian mafia. So mafia set in Italy, like the actual Naples. You get the Italian dialect. You get like all the good stuff. So I
Mm.
really love her books, and she does have some male romance, which is actually an assassin and the guy who's the son of the boss, and they hook up in the first scene. They have
Nice.
like a hot hookup, and then he needs to kill the guy. Like, how great is that premise? Like, this is a romance novel. And then I new authors that I discovered recently are Jill Ransomware. I read Silent Vows, which is an arranged marriage. I think it's Italian. Her dad killed her mom, and so she's been mute. She's not speaking. So they told him like, hey, you need to marry off someone in the time mob so they can do like some arrangements. And he had to pick someone, and he picks them. He was like, I'll pick the mute girl because she won't fight me. And then it turns out that they're like, she's not mute and she has like a whole thing. And he rescues her from her abusive dad, and he does all the morally great things, but we love him. And then I read Dante Sadie Kincaid. I think she has like a whole series of it. They're fairly popular. I read the first one and listened to the first one, which is available. It's even though it's indie, the audio is available on the library apps. I think
Oh, nice.
Miami, NOLA, and LA Public Library offer the audio for the first one. So I listened to that one. This was a captive captor where he kidnaps her because her brother owes him money, like a lot of
Mhm.
money. So he kidnaps her
Of course, as you do.
as you do. So, but I want to preface most of the kidnapping that happens here. They stay in a nice house. They have 5-star meals made by a chef. They have all the outfits that you can have. Like they have all the clothes, like the expensive clothes. They have access to entertainment. So this is kind of like a spa hotel while being captive.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah.
Now that you've talked about all the different kinds of mafia, I'm curious, which one is your favorite? Is it Italian, Russian?
I think it's Italian.
Cartel?
I think it's Italian. I read a couple of Russian. I read a couple of Irish. I started a couple cartel ones, and cartels feels too close to home for me. And also, it's hard. I don't know if you noticed, but it's hard to when you're writing, especially Spanish representation or someone who grew up in Puerto Rico. But it's hard to not identify. What I'm trying to say is like it's hard to see if they're doing it right.
Right.
Really comes down to it, because a lot of things are sensationalized and are making make a big deal. So it's like if an Italian was reading these Italian mafia romans, they're
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh my god, these are so many issues here. It's the same
Yeah.
idea. I have so many issues with cartel romances. I'm like, you did not get it right. You do not know how to do this. That Spanglish is so that's the stereotypical.
Oh my
So
god, yes.
so I
Yes.
so in some ways I find Italian is like my safe place. I do have Italian heritage. My grandfather was Italian. They're from, I think it's up north in Italy, but
Mhm.
they moved to Peru. So, and I
Yeah.
never grew up with them because my grandparents were divorced. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we were like, I'm Italian in some ways, but I'm not really Italian. Like, I
Yeah.
did not grow up like you grew up with the culture.
Yes, yes, yes. No, I totally get that. And it happens to me a lot, whether it's with Italian books or with when you're dealing with Spanish, because a lot of times, and I think also something with Spanish is because in every country, everything can be so different.
Yes.
So depending on maybe who they even checked with, it might have been okay for that country,
Yeah.
but then it may not be. Like maybe they're setting this cartel in, I don't know, whatever place, Colombia, and they're
Oh my God.
asking somebody from Mexico, and
Yeah.
things are going to be different. So it's going to come across as something that it comes out as a problem. So I totally get what you're saying.
And I grew up with media, like Latin media. Like I grew up watching Colombian telenovelas, Venezuela
Mm-hmm.
telenovelas, Mexican telenovelas.
Yep.
The 80s were big on the actual Latin America exporting the telenovelas. So I grew up
Mhm.
watching consuming
Yeah.
the material, consuming entertainment. I understand certain nuances, but there are certain things I'm like, yeah, that doesn't cut it. And it's very Americanized and it's
Yeah.
different growing up in America, like in the US, than growing up somewhere in the actual Spanish speaking countries. It's a
True.
very different lifestyle, it's a very different experience. And there's it's just like the same comparison Midwest people to Northeast or Florida to the rest of the US. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of nuances. So,
Yes. I mean, Florida always.
Florida, we got the Florida men.
Yes, we do. All right. So now that we got some of the general mafia information, let's
Yeah.
dive into kidnapping and captive capture and just give us some of your top favorites so people can go and have a dark weekend.
All right, so we're gonna start with Mafia Mistress by Mila Finale. It's a duet. There's two books, actually five books in the series, but this is a duet. And Mafia Madman is also Captive Captor. So there's three books that are Captive Captor. So the first one, she is in Canada. She's living her best life. She's escaping her house to go see her boyfriend, and her dad catches her. And Fausto, the head boss from Italy, comes in and says, like, I want her to be my son's wife. And she's like, no. So he basically kidnaps her, takes her to Italy, isolates her in this villa where she's just trying to figure out, she doesn't know the language. And she's supposed to be married to this guy, but it turns out that the son was gay. So Fausto was like, I like her. So he decides to take his son's potential fiance as his wife, as his mistress, because he doesn't want to get married because he's gonna he had issues. So it was his mistress, and
Mhm.
then she becomes his wife. So it's a duet. It ends in a cliffhanger. Both books are out. They're on Kindle Limited. And then the third book is the guy who tried to kill Fausto as a revenge. He kidnaps the girl's sister, and she's stranded in a boat.
Okay.
There's a
Not
cage,
bad.
there's like stuff, and so obviously romance ensues, and so there's another kidnap. And then the fourth book, and that's the assassin, that's the son, and the
Mhm.
assassin that the guy from the third book tried to kill, got him to
Right.
kill the
Right.
son. So they're all together. And they all at the end coexist with each other and
Of
talk to,
course.
and are a big happy family of people of
I
nemesis.
mean, I think that is actually accurate for when you're talking about cartels and mafia. Yeah, they have to deal with
Yeah,
it because they've all tried to kill each other.
yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, so that's set in Italy. So it's armchair travel to Italy, and you get a couple kidnapping, and and the audios are available in the library. All
Okay.
five audios, and they're also available in script too. Everyone's
Okay.
script actually has the audio. So if you're an audio listener, those are available in the library. Enjoy.
That sounds great.
All right, so we got to talk about Cardinal Urges by J.T. Geisinger. So I did not read Brutal Birthright. I could not care less about that book. It's the first book in the series. I think she gets kidnapped too, but no, she doesn't kidnap. So I only read the last chapter because it leads up to this one. So
Okay.
the heroine sets a war between mafia, like between Irish and Italian or Russian mafia. She sets a war like that happens, and as a result, she gets kidnapped.
Hmm.
And she gets kidnapped by the head of the Irish mob, and it's in Boston. Her friends are in New York, and so she's feisty and she fights, and so she actually gets the guys who were protecting her or like not keeping her from stuff, and she becomes friends with them and has like a sassy stuff, and so she ends up like hooking up with the guy who kidnapped her and then gets it out and stuff like that. But it's a fight, sassy, feisty heroine, but she's fighting in her own way that I'm like, if I was kidnapped, I would be like her. I want to be slow. Yes, I caused a whole big war, but it's not a big deal. Like they just make shit up, like make stuff. That's Cardinal Urges by JT Geisinger.
Love that. And that's also part of a series, right?
That's part of a series, but you can read the last chapter, Birthright, and then read the second book. You get the sense of it. If you don't like Birthright, I DNF'd that one, and I was like, I don't care about this one. I was told that Sloane is like great character, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, and it is a great character. So yeah,
Sometimes that's good. Like just skip the one that's not good and go to the
yeah.
one that you need to.
Yeah, and I think they were picked for traditionally published books. You might be able to get the audios available in the library. I'm not sure. All these books are available on Kindle Limited, but audios, because it's not exclusive, you might be able
Right.
to get them in the library. The next one is Run, Pussy, Run by Kate C. Wells. So she was dating the mafia guy, and he was not good for her. He was just like not a fun guy. So I don't know how they break up, or she breaks up with him or something like that. And so he sends her to kill her because I guess she was like a daughter of some low level mafia guy. Somehow he wants her back, essentially. I think she breaks up with him because she's not getting orgasms and he wants her back. And he's either going to kill her or have her captive. And he learns how to take care of her. Like he learns how to be a better boyfriend. So it was like inspiring. Like it's a second chance romance of someone who was like shitty at the beginning. So
Also, somebody that couldn't give her an orgasm. So, hey, he learned.
he learned his lesson.
I love that.
So yeah, so that's Ron Posey Ron. It's a fun one. She's still feisty. She's still going to his places and everything. Then there's the Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpas. This is a more darker one. This is pretty
Hmm.
dark. So he's the head of the. He's okay. So he's British, but he was adopted by this rich guy who was the head of the mafia in Miami. Don't
Hmm.
ask. I don't
Okay.
understand why this is Miami. Do not understand. It's so random. And he was adopted and he inherits the mafia from that place. And so he has all these business dealings because a lot of this mafia have like real business, like have like legit business behind
Hmm.
the bad
Yeah, you
business.
got to launder that money.
Yeah. So he was doing something with the mayor or soon to be mayor,
Hmm.
and she was actually held captive by another guy. So she was blackmailing the mayor or trying to get information from the mayor. And somehow the Brit got hold that he saw her and she's like, I want her. So he captures her. So it's a convoluted capture, situation. And so he captures her and she still has to work with the guy that she get captured because he had her son. She was sex trafficked. This is like
Hmm.
that's why it's much more darker,
Right.
and it's convoluted. It's just a lot of like issues. But I think this is not on KU, if I'm correct. You might have to be able to borrow from the library, but it's a more darker themes, but it's a good one. It
Yeah.
entertained me. But yes, it was in Miami. I don't know why. I was surprised as someone who lives in Florida. I was like, well, I know Miami has mafia. I know that. I know, but it's likely to be cartel,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not Italian or Irish or British, you know. Like
So fun.
when I think,
British, especially, I'm like,
yeah, like I was like, oh, this is British. Like this is American. Like what is going on? Yeah. And Sophie Lark has the second book in the Brutal Birthright series. It's a captive captor. So the first book is an arranged marriage between the Irish and Italian family, and then the daughter of the Irish family gets captured by because they in the between of the marriage they kill the head of the Bratva or the Polish mafia, and
mhm.
the guy from the Polish mafia kidnaps the daughter of the Irish family, and she's a ballerina, and he creates a studio for her to practice dancing because that's what she spends her time
Oh,
doing.
my heart.
So it's a is it a Cinderella? It's one of those. It's a fairy tale retelling. She's in captivity, and then they all have to be a family together because this is a whole mafia. She does have a next generation series that's coming out in Bloom Books. That's actually the kids, and she has like a Hogwarts, like a magical school for mafia kids series.
Oh my god. That sounds good.
Yes. So you get like they have like different areas, like they're like the leaders, the mob boss, the other boss, and like there's a whole school. So there's a whole world for that. Uh,
That's amazing. And now I have to read that.
yeah. So if you like, I think the Air is the first book in that series, and so you get to read. But the kids have their generation.
Mhm.
They go to mafia school.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Hey, listen, they gotta learn.
they gotta learn. They gotta learn the business. So I think those were good starter series to get started for mafia.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah. I think that that sounds like a good entry point also because once you get into like assassins or anything where there is a lot more, which I mean, I have enjoyed a lot of those. I probably have read more assassins than captive or kidnapping
Yeah.
stories, but I do really, really enjoy both. I think I need to read a lot of these. They sound really amazing.
Yes, you need to come and tell me about the assassin stories because I'm like, oh yes, give me
Yes.
that.
Assassins are so good. I think one of the things I really love about these kind of stories is it makes you think on the psychology of what these characters
Yeah,
are going through, both from like the let's call them like the morally gray character
yeah,
instead of saying the bad guy, but the morally gray heroes and the business dealings that they're in. And you get to hear the backstory or how they got involved or even their feelings about how some of the stuff they're doing, they may be conflicted, maybe not, or whatever. So I love that even when it's somebody that's doing bad things and even if they're enjoying it, like, because I have read some of those, but I like being in their mind and like the psychology of why they're doing it. I love that.
yes. Oh, so good, so good. So these are darker entry points. They're not too dark, except the Brit. They're just fun ways to see some morally gray characters.
Yeah. And as far as the trigger warnings, like you mentioned, probably the Jodi Ellen Malpas is
Yep.
the one where it's a little bit
Yes,
more.
that's the most tough one. As someone who has trigger warnings and doesn't get it gets nightmares and have PTSD, the Jodi Almalpas is the hardest one. Everyone else is fine, at least for me. And my trigger warnings are sexual assaults. That's like the big one.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm pretty much fine with it. Yes, there might be some killings, there might be some death, but handle
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So no like dubious consent or
No,
any.
no, 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 no. I don't like that. I
Yeah.
personally do not like dubious consent, non-consent, somophilia, any assault of any kind.
Yeah.
I don't even like bullying. Like it has to be light bullying. Like it
Yeah.
cannot be like bullying. You know,
Yes.
like I'm
Yes.
gonna
I,
assault
I
you.
hate bullying books.
Yeah.
Can't
So I didn't finish another book. It was halfway through, and I was like, yeah, this is dark. It is too dark for me. So I
Yeah,
know
I
some
think
people
it's
love it.
important to know your limits.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't yuck other people's yum. It's like
Yeah,
it's just there. Everyone has their own limits, their own trigger warnings. I at this point in my life, I do a little bit. I don't do a lot, just enough, and as long as it makes me fall, that doesn't give me nightmares, I'm fine with it.
well, those are all amazing recommendations. I'm excited to read some of these. I'm definitely going to be picking up some of these Italian mafia, and I'll report back how inaccurate they
Yes, so you report about how inaccurate it is because you were like, "What am I reading?" I
I
think you
got
should read
wrong.
Mafia
But
Mistress.
I think I think you said that it was Joanna Shup. I think she's
That's
Italian, right?
I think she's Italian. Yeah, she
That
wrote.
might be
I
fine.
did talk to her. There's two interviews from Joanna Shup. There's a Joanna Shup for historical,
Uh,
and then there's a Mila Finelli interview. There's actually she has come to Mila Finelli twice because I did get
nice.
her before she came out as Joanna Shup. So there's an original Mila Finelli. So
Mhm.
she has come twice, and I remember this is her side project. This is a project that she was writing in the pandemic as something to escape, as one does, you
Yeah.
know. And so the reason why she wrote this type of mafia is because she was reading mafia and she saw there was a need for Italian mafia, like
Mhm.
authentic Italian mafia
Yeah.
from Italy, straight
Yeah.
off from the source.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I have a feeling that it's accurate then.
yes. So, but it's just delicious. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll leave links in the show notes for those interviews so you guys can go and check out
Yeah.
those Joanna Shup interviews because that sounds really interesting. I know I'll be listening to those. And do you have also some other material on your blog that people can go and check out more mafia stuff?
So there will be some Rage Marriage Mafia recommendations, and there's actually a King of Wrath, which is kind of like non-mafia, but it's loosely billionaires, loosely morally gray area books like. So that's an Annie Huang series of Seven Deadly
Uh-huh.
Sins, and so there's a list of arranged marriages. So arranged marriages is where I'm looking for. I may do an extended list for captive capture by the time this comes out, so
Yeah.
there will be more recommendations there. So, yes. And if you're
Okay.
looking for mafia recommendations, there are Facebook groups full of people who only read mafia who can recommend you more books to read. So, yes, if you're looking for those niche tropes, like darker tropes, there's likely to be a Facebook group full of people reading those books and recommending more books.
Nice, nice. This is the underbelly of
Yeah,
Facebook.
underbelly, yes. Like
That's amazing.
make some friends who are like, I just read this Captain Captor.
And we'll be sure to bring you guys all of those recommendations here on an update episode.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Laura, where can people find you and what do you have going on? I know that you just launched your Substack, so tell us all about that.
Yes, so you can find me at whatyournextblog.com. It has all my links. I have a podcast that's 5 days a week, most days, with a lot of other interviews. There's like 700 episodes, and I'm not exaggerating. There's 700 episodes. So you can find any specific author interviews. There's plenty of them there. I do have a Substack where I share some book recommendations, some like what's new, what's coming up in this every week, like weekend reading. But I also have tips on how to read on a budget from libraries, Kindle Limited, and other systems that you can actually pay a flat fee and you can read as much as you want, from listening to audiobooks to actual Kindle books.
All amazing stuff. So if you guys want all of the Kindle recommendations, Laura's got them all. I swear that she reads the best stuff on Kindle Unlimited. She finds them. So
Yes.
definitely go.
I start a lot of books in Kindle Limited. I'm in the know with the top 100 of like, okay, is this worth it? Or if you read this top 100, what do I read next? That's like my favorite thing, is to curate a list based on your reading taste and be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Okay, here's my mood reading for Kindle Limited.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to pay like $12 for the book. Can I
Yeah.
just get it for free? So
Yeah.
libraries.
Absolutely. So definitely Laura is your go-to resource for that. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast and we'll definitely have to have you back to explore more of these darker subjects and dive into more mafia cuz it's a big world.
It is a big role. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.